So you saw just a portion of this one previously, but here is the entire interview, or again, as much as I taped of it, from when Sigourney Weaver went on The Tonight Show. She's being interviewed by Johnny's guest host and later successor, Jay Leno. You know, I'm still rankled by that whole Peter McNichol gets Johnny himself thing. Here you go.
Well, congratulations.
Thank you very much.
Well, that's very exciting. Do you think like two separate speeches if perchance you were to win both? Do you?
Well, I think two separate dresses, and I'll just change during one of the commercials.
Boy, that's very exciting. I just think that's amazing. Has anyone ever won in two categories?
Actually, it's happened several times, and the most recently with Jessica Lange. I think it's just dependent on getting, you know, two wonderful roles in the same year.
Now, I know you just came in, you're doing Ghostbusters too, right?
That's right.
And you just came from the set seconds ago, isn't that right?
Well, yeah.
Working with with Murray and Ackroyd.
With the boys.
Well, that must be very strange, I imagine that. I mean, they're nice guys, but, you know,
There's a lot of teasing of me. I'm sort of the Margaret Dumont of the group. But it's all pretty affectionate.
Yeah. Now, what are you doing? You're interviewing... Somebody you're doing babies or auditioning babies for the part?
Yes, I have a little son named Oscar in the show, so we had to audition all these twins. And so Bill was with us, and he has this technique. These little twins would be there. There were about 20 pairs with their parents, and he'd come up and he'd go, "Hey, big guy, hey, you!" And he'd sort of lurch toward the child. The parents would go like this, and the babies would be looking up. And then he just wouldn't stop. You know, he'd just go, "Come on, big man." And they just start laughing. It was the most, you know, it's sort of what happens to all of us, only with little tiny pint-sized examples.
Well, they use twins, right? Because what you can only keep children under the lights for so many hours.
4 hours a day each.
I would think quintuplets would...
Well, we did see some triplets, but they didn't. The ones we picked were wearing little sets of tails, like a tuxedo. So it was cute. They're Will and Hank.
There you go.
Adorable.
Now, in Working Girl, and you know, I saw Working Girl just the other, and it was great. I liked it because it was an upbeat kind of film, and I thought you played that character just right. I mean, it was so, because you know, in this town, there are so many people like that.
Are there?
That sort of, let's call her a witch, I think probably would be the best.
A witch you had great sympathy for.
Great sympathy, but just the little moments that you had was great. Did you like playing? Is it fun to play that kind of kind of snippy sort of?
It's very juicy, and especially when she loses her boyfriend and her job and everything. The revenge was like those old Rosalind Russell, you know.
Well, that's what was great. That's what I loved. I mean, you just.
What?
I don't know. I'm trying to think of some way to phrase it. It was just. It was just so subtle and right on. It looked like actually some agents I know over at one of the offices.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Let me ask you about Gorillas in the Mist. I know that was a film or two ago, but this was amazing to me. When you worked, you went into the wild, right? You worked pretty much just with the gorillas one-on-one, right? It was just you and the cameraman, right?
Yes. And the group we worked with was a group of Dianes that was about 20, now 26, but 24 at the time.
Yeah.
And you had to kind of suss it out before you went in. There's sort of a protocol of who doesn't mind being sat next to and who's in a good mood that day. And you kind of have to creep along and make little reassuring sounds and sit next to the right one that day.
Oh, it's like having lunch with Fred at the show.
Right.
Well, I saw something once in a special that said, a gorilla will charge you, and if you run away, that means you're scared or something, but if you sit and hold your ground, then they'll run right up to you and, like, boo and do things in your face.
Well,
not boo. That's a bad impression of it.
I never heard boo, but when it actually happened to me, I must say I couldn't have stood up and run away at all. I mean, my knees were like... I was sitting there, and he came running up, and he gave me a big swat, sort of knocked me over, and... It was just, they moved so quickly. He was just saying, you know, you are not important, and I am. He was just reminding me. I knew.
You could have hit him with
I hadn't made that clear.
Hit him with a sex harassment suit.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, there was one gorilla named Shinda who was sort of an adolescent, and I thought I don't want to sound conceited, but I thought he had a crush on me.
Oh, well.
Well, he didn't actually put any moves on me or anything, but
a woman can sense, can't you?
Well, it's true. We're all very very alike.
Yeah.
But he'd sort of take me off to the side, and he'd sort of sit, and he wouldn't exactly put his arm around me, but he'd sort of go, you know. He'd kind of make sure everyone in the group was watching that he was sort of,
Really?
and then kind of play with my hand. And,
Yeah. He probably figured, she's the worst looking one here of the group. Of all the gorillas, boy, I picked the ugliest one of the bunch, didn't I?
That's absolutely true, I'm sure. But the other thing is, once I was crawling up toward the big silverback, I was trying to get a shot near him, and he kind of looked at me, and he kind of got up, and he moved away because this female had presented herself to him, which means that she sort of, was suggesting that, anyway, they present themselves. I won't do it, but anyway,
No,
it's quite clear what's going on.
clear.
And so they started to copulate, and we were all like, well, should we watch, or should we turn away, or what should we do? And so we watched, I'm afraid. We were just totally... And what was funny was it was quite interesting, actually. No sort of wasted energy. And as the big silverback you felt was about to finish, the female sort of turned around and kind of grabbed a stalk of wild celery and kind of, was on her elbow, kind of munching it. This guy, I thought it was very funny.
And the big gorilla didn't give her like here's 20 coconuts, babes. I mean, it wasn't one of those deals. So gorillas they're not private. Like I said, they're not private people.
Free spirits. Free spirits.
They pretty much, they're out there. It's kind of like Woodstock. They just do it wherever they want.
It's like the old days.
Well, I guess the scary thing is how much like us they are, isn't it?
They're so like us, and I was really able to tell the different individuals quite quickly. Their faces are utterly different one from another.
What was this thing someone told me about the safari ants? Now, this sounded like something I had never heard before.
Oh, it's awful. It is. It's.
Are they big? Are they?
Well, of course, I'm a naive African traveler, and so my husband and I, we just arrived at the camp, and we saw this trail of ants. They weren't that big. They were a little bigger than our ants. And we stopped and admired them and thought, oh, how interesting. Look, there's this huge stream of ants. And about 5 minutes later, we were standing in line for dinner. And what the ants do is they crawl up inside your clothes, all over you. They don't do anything. And then at a chemical signal, they all bite you at once. So you're like, rah, really stinging. It's incredible. And then you have to hit yourself all over and try to squish all of them. It's very difficult. It's very difficult.
That sounds like a lot of fun. I bet dinner's real enjoyable after that, too. And you didn't know they were on you, and they all just...
No, you have to keep your blue jeans in your boots. That's the key.
Oh, that's the key.
You'll remember that.
Traveling with the gorillas.
Right.
Okay. Someone said well, I guess when you said the Margaret Dumont character earlier about in the Ghostbusters.
Right.
But I kind of see you as that character. I mean, you
do?
Well, no, I think you play that kind of comedy very well. I mean, that kind of... the elegant sort of, and the funny things happen around. Do you like that kind of part? Do you like doing, what do they call it, screwball comedies of the 30s when people would do that?
Yes, I mean, they're rarely done anymore, and but it is fun. I mean, especially with those guys. They're all so funny in their own right that I couldn't possibly keep up with them. It's much better for me to play the reactor.
Just be the straight.
The reactress.
Straight person.
Exactly.
Let me ask this, Sigourney. What does this name mean?
It means...
Is it a name your parents came up with one day, or is it...
No, actually, I came up with it.
You came up with it?
I don't think my parents mind, although they might have in the past. But I know I changed my name because I had a little short name, Susan, and I was already this tall when I was about 13.
Yeah.
And I needed a name I could grow into because I knew I was going to be really tall.
So when did you come up with Sigourney? Was that...
Well, I chose it out of a book, The Great Gatsby.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, it works.
Oh, well, thank you.
Now, I know your dad was... was television executive, right?
Head of NBC, started the Today Show and the Tonight Show.
Head of NBC. Oh, good. I'll hold this job real long. Yeah, and a fine man. Pat Weaver, right?
Exactly.
Pat Weaver, right? Or Patrick, or whatever.
Pat Sylvester.
Mr. Weaver to me. Well, Sylvester, so he changed his name as well.
And my mother did, too. Her name is Desiree, and she calls herself Liz. So maybe it's just genetic.
It could be a genetic thing.
Yeah, a mutant thing.
Yeah. Now, so you grew up pretty much in the whole business. This was nothing new to you.
Grew up in the business in New York, which is
Yeah.
slightly different.
Was that, did you say you had a pampered childhood, would you say? Was that?
I would say I had a pampered childhood, and now I'm having a pampered adulthood.
Yeah. Well, but you certainly earned it. I mean, that's what I think. Your character in Working Girl is what most people in your situation probably would become if they were not as bright as you are.
Oh, well, thank you.
That's a compliment, isn't it?
I think so.
Yeah.
I'll take it as one. I haven't really met any Catherines. I've had women come up and say that they know Catherines and that they're trying not to be Catherines, but I actually have never. Actors are very isolated from executives usually.
Let's get back to these gorillas. Now, when the big gorilla... No. You just kind of sit there and watch the gorillas.
Well, no, you don't really. They interfere a lot. They're very noisy, and they come up and they kind of, I mean, they do.
All right, I'm getting very excited.
They do. They're very curious about. Haven't you ever had an animal come on the show?
Oh no, I've had animals come on the show, but they haven't gone quite that far.
Well, no, they're very, curious, but I always found them very delicate and gentle. They never broke anything.
Yeah.
They'd sort of taste things and then run off with them, and you'd never see them again.
Well, that's fascinating.
Yeah,
That's terrific.
it was a great experience.
Oh, and what's this? A fascinating message, ladies and gentlemen. I'm sure it'll just be unbelievable. We'll be right back.